This watch has one thing that barely any other watch can offer. You see, where most microbrand watches are manufactured in China or occasionally Switzerland, this one isn't. This piece is manufactured right here in the UK. And for those of you who've been collecting watches for a while, you'll know just how special that is. It's easy to make a watch in China on the cheap, ship it over to where the microbrand is located, and then from there send it out to the customer. But it's a whole different beast to actually manufacture the parts right here in Great Britain. Firstly, that's because it's just very expensive to do. And secondly, it's hard to even find the facilities that are capable of doing it. So when a watch brand is able to stamp made in the UK on the dial, you've got my attention. Hello there, my name is Kieran, welcome to Top Tier Ticker. I hope you're having a good day. So the watch we're checking out today is very niche. It's got a design that won't be for everyone, but I know for a fact that most of you will appreciate the engineering that's gone into this watch. Because I promise you, you've never seen a watch that's been constructed like this before. And I honestly think this is a watch that's going to appeal to a lot of people, even though it's quite a niche design. This video is not sponsored, there's no affiliate link, there's no free watch, there's certainly no under-the-table payment like some people seem to think sometimes. I simply think this is a watch that most of you guys are gonna really enjoy seeing on video. And truth be told, it's just a watch that I wanted to wear for a few days because I think it's pretty special. So this is a watch from a brand called Apiar. I first met these guys at the Manchester Watch Show. They were showcasing a couple of their first models, one of which we actually took a closer look at in a video last year. However, their first watches were exceptionally niche. The Invernier was one of the craziest watches I've ever seen. A full titanium watch with an astronaut hand painted on the dial, emulating the look of an astronaut traveling through a wormhole. Don't worry, today's watch isn't quite that niche, but still a little bit crazy. Certainly one for someone who doesn't like boring watches. So when I mentioned that this watch is made in the UK, unlike almost every other watch brand, Apiar actually tells you where every single part is manufactured. The case is manufactured in the UK. The bezel, also manufactured in the UK. The crystal is made in Japan and then printed on here in the UK. The dial, strap, crown and travel case are also manufactured here in the UK. The movement is made in Switzerland and the hands are made in India. So not a single part of this watch is manufactured in China, which is a rarity. Now, how Apiar actually produces their cases is completely different to anyone else. They use something called additive manufacturing. In layman's terms, this is where the case is 3D printed using titanium powder. You program the software that then by layer builds the parts from bottom to top. These are very rough parts that then get finished elsewhere in Britain. So this is a proper process with parts going around different facilities depending on who can do the best job. And the benefit of using this manufacturing technique is that you can create some really interesting stuff. The case architecture on this watch is unlike any I've seen before, and well, it's not even close. Just look at the amount of detail on the side of the case from lug to lug. Semi-skeletonized, each part ducking and weaving behind one another. Simply put, it's just impressive. This case was designed using generative algorithms, which I'll be honest, I don't really know too much about, except it's what race car manufacturers use to design components. And this is actually a 3-piece case. So the case back and the lugs are one whole piece, then we have the mid case that's actually fully connected to the dial, and then the bezel which is pressed on top. These parts are screwed together using 4 screws that you can see on the case back, and this construction allows for some incredibly interesting viewing angles from all over the watch. In terms of material, this is fully titanium, grade 23 titanium to be exact, which is a grade of titanium used in the biomedical field. But that means that this watch, as usual with titanium, is incredibly lightweight. Including the strap, this watch weighs in at just 36 grams, which is just insane. When paired up with the dimensions, which we'll cover shortly, this watch just wears a treat. You forget you're even wearing a watch for 99% of the day. But what I think makes this watch extra special is this beautifully chaotic dial. The dial is made using the same manufacturing techniques as the lower case. So like the case, the dial is also made from titanium. Behind though is a gorgeous metallic disc made from aluminium and anodized with a golden finish. The titanium web and golden plate contrast effortlessly, and like the case, offer some incredible viewing angles. The handset is diamond cut and nickel plated with a polished finish, and the sharpness to the handset works really well with the chaotic dial design. The minute track and Apiar branding is actually pad printed to the underside of the sapphire crystal, which does help a little bit with legibility, and although there are no hour markings on the minute track, the actual dial construction culminates at every 5-minute interval, which acts as the hour markers. The dial is also a lot darker around the edges, which does somewhat help with legibility, although truth be told, legibility is not this watch's strongest point just because of how much detail there is. Now I think a good watch needs a good movement. I'm sure a lot of people would just be happy with sticking an entry-level movement in this watch and making it as cheap as possible, but I personally think this watch deserves something a little bit better. And that's what Apiar has delivered. This watch is fitted with the automatic La Apiar Gen1.0. This is a Swiss-made movement with a high beat rate, so 8 ticks per second. Power reserve is an impressive 68 hours on this one, and although you can't see the movement because the case back is closed, it's a very well decorated movement, and in my opinion one of the best looking Swiss movements for sure. Oh, and this is also a true no date movement, so there's no ghost date under that dial. Another very impressive area of this watch, and often overlooked, the supplied strap. Usually an afterthought for a lot of watch brands, but not here. This is a strap made by the Strap Tailor, a British strap maker that produces some of the highest quality leather bands that I've experienced. This one has a suede finish, it's super soft right out of the box, and it fits the aesthetic perfectly. The buckle is also made using additive manufacturing, therefore titanium, and it also features the same styling as the case, featuring skeletonized sections. On the wrist, thanks to this super soft strap, the ridiculously low weight, and a great set of dimensions, this watch just wears beautifully. This is Apiar's take on a dress watch, so the dimensions here are restrained. The case measures in at 39mm, lug to lug is 44mm, and the case thickness is just 8.8mm. Now, I personally wouldn't call this a dress watch, I don't think it's even close. More of an everyday watch with flair. I can't stress enough just how comfortable this watch is to wear. You put it on and completely forget you've even got a watch on your wrist in the best possible way. Now, flaws. Well, the crown here does seem like a bit of an afterthought. Everything on this watch is extremely detailed, yet the crown is unsigned and I think it looks a little bit too generic. I don't think this watch looks as good from the back as it does from the front. The text on the back is fine, but it doesn't feel in line with the rest of the watch. Now, this one certainly isn't for those with bad eyesight. The dial is super busy and the handset can occasionally get lost against it, and the water resistance is sadly only 30 meters on this one. Not too big of an issue if you've got a larger collection, as I'm sure a lot of people have, because you've probably already got a diver or swimmable watches in your collection, but 50 meters of course would have been nice. Now, this is the first non-limited edition piece from Apiar. This watch is made to order, which means you don't get instant fulfillment when you buy one. Estimated delivery time per watch is a few months, but it could be quicker if they've already got the parts produced and then they'll be ready to assemble. The price of the Gen 1 is £2,250, and it launches on the same day as this video. Obviously, this one is on the more expensive side, but I think the value is there. Not necessarily for the spec sheet, but where the watch is manufactured. Find me another made in the UK watch for this price. I don't think there's any, and if there is, there's very little of them. This obviously isn't a watch for a new collector. It's a piece for someone who has a large collection and wants something unusual that's manufactured in the United Kingdom. This is one of those eye catchers. It's something to start a conversation. Want to show people at a watch show when you want to show off your eccentric taste. I do really like this one. Now, admittedly, not enough to drop £2,000 of my own money on one, but I do appreciate the amount of effort gone into making something so unique. I'll leave this one linked below if you want to read more about this insane design. Catch you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.